And welcome to Conversations. For those not familiar with our program, every Wednesday at noon, we check in with a member of the community, check about what's going on as it relates to the pandemic, learn about that organization perhaps, and really try to educate our community on things that are going on around them. So this week, we're really excited. We have our congregant and relatively new speaking, the Chief Operating Officer of Jewish Family Services, Carl Josehart, here to join us. Carl, first off, thanks for joining, and how are you?
Well, thanks, Jason. I'm doing well. I think that, like everyone, we're struggling to adapt to this new world that we're living in. But technologies like Zoom are really helping us stay connected to family and friends, and here at JFS to our clients and to the community.
Well, that's great. And of course, we're using Zoom today to record this program. So Carl, before we dive into what JFS is and what they're doing during the pandemic, really tell us what your role specifically is at Jewish Family Services for those who aren't familiar with you wearing this hat.
Sure. So I just celebrated 2 years with Jewish Family Service, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer. So my role is really to make sure that all of our staff have the tools and the things that they need to get their job done. I'm responsible just for the day-to-day kind of infrastructure that really enables those who are doing the client-facing work to be successful at their job. And then when Alan Reingold, our Chief Financial Officer, retired at the end of October of last year, I stepped into the role of interim Chief Financial Officer while we did our search. And I'm really excited to share that we just hired a new Chief Financial Officer, Tammy Hopwood, and she's going to be joining us on Monday, May 18th. So I'll be back to wearing just one hat.
Well, as someone who wears multiple hats all the time, I can certainly appreciate that. And wow, I didn't realize it's, how long you've been at JFS. It feels like it was just yesterday.
I know, the time really goes by.
Yeah, and I think that kind of ties into everything going on around us, right?
Right.
So let's start with prior to the pandemic. A few weeks ago, I got a comment from some viewers that they've lived in Houston for 30 plus years. And really, that was the first time they learned what the Jewish Federation does in this community. And in much the same vein, I think everyone has different preconceived notions of what JFS is. So I think a lot of us know about the counseling model that it provides to our community. What are some of the other services that JFS provides?
Well, so you hit on a very important one, which is counseling. But our counseling department, we call our behavioral and mental health services area, does more than just counseling. We're really about kind of taking a public health kind of approach, to mental health community-wide. So many people might be aware that a number of years ago, our community, like the nation, was experiencing an uptick in deaths by suicide and other kind of tragic circumstances. And we really felt that it was our role at JFS to do community education and prevention. Much like we all learned CPR probably in high school, we started a program that has many aspects, but one of them is mental health first aid, trying to reach out to every member of the community we can to learn how to respond if someone they meet or know is in a mental health crisis, and how to get them connected up to the help they need. So hopefully they'll never feel so alone or disconnected that they do something that would be harmful.
That mental health first aid, for those in the congregation Emanu community who are watching, we were on the docket to host one in April. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, it got postponed. It still very much is a need for our community. I know a lot of our congregants and some of our staff have taken that mental health first aid, but I promise once we're able to, Gittel Francis and I will work on rescheduling that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So some of our other programs include case management. And our case management department is, kind of has multiple things that they do. One of them is to help seniors in our community age safely at home for as long as possible. And then, as their needs change, if they ever need to move into a different environment, help them identify the appropriate, place and help with that transition. We also feel very honored to do the sacred work of helping our Holocaust survivors that are still in our community. And we're the representative for them to the Claims Conference, which is a program that was set up by the German government to pay reparations and help those folks with a measure of dignity as they age in our community. And so we're very proud to be able to do that work. We also have an employment program. And given the current circumstances right now, obviously that's taking on a much more important role, as many people in our community, unfortunately, are starting to feel the employment impacts of the COVID pandemic. And then we have kind of our stellar program that you see behind me, which is Celebration Company. JFS is really at the forefront of trying to provide a whole range of services for people living with disabilities. So within our disability services program, we have the Alexander Institute for Inclusion that really looks at how we reduce stigma, how we provide advocacy and education. We have our Real Abilities program that, Emanu partnered with us in some very important ways this last year. But that's a film and arts festival that really is all about educating the broader community. And then Celebration Company itself is a social entrepreneurial program that provides life skills and work and employment opportunities for people with disabilities. So they actually run 5 or 6 different businesses. They sell napkins that can be customized with your company logo, or special for bar and bat mitzvahs and weddings. They make candles, so most people in Houston use their candles for Shabbat and Hanukkah. They have a retail store that's both physically present when you're able to come, but for all those people missing shopping, you can shop online at the Celebration Company online store. They go out into the community for internships, and with the ultimate goal of just helping people live the most productive, independent lives that's appropriate for their situation.
Celebration Company really is neat. For those not familiar, Emanu does sell some of their products, including their napkins and candles in the gift shop. But really, I view it as one of the hidden gems in our community. And I know, and maybe Carl, you can expand on this, that on Fridays they have Shabbat, and all the clergy in town take a turn to come stop through and help lead them with Shabbat and other activities.
Yeah, it's a remarkable program. So, as I said, all of the participants are employees of AFS and receive a paycheck for the work that they do. But in addition, they're learning, life skills. And so during the week, they plan out the menu and they go shopping. And then many Fridays, we have a guest chef that comes in. So if anyone wants to be a guest chef, please let us know. We can get you scheduled for a slot. And then Friday, they prepare the meal, and the last thing they do before they go home to their families is have a Shabbat meal together. And I saw Rabbi Silk here a few weeks ago, and I know, like you said, that all of the clergy in the community take turns coming in, and it's a really special, meaningful time in that program.
It's always neat to see the collaboration, and maybe some people watching this weren't aware of that beforehand. So let's change gears a bit. So when the pandemic hit, how did the work of JFS shift, and what challenges as an organization did you guys see during the shift, if any, to get operations continuing to go?
Well, for those folks who've lived in the community for more than a couple of years, that our community has had to weather many different crises. In each crisis, you learn something new, and each one is a little bit different. So certainly, JFS was well prepared to know how to deal with hurricanes and floods. We've had our fair share of those in Houston. This event has been different for all of us. And I think that one of the challenges we all faced, like Emanu and other places, is that we were not able to be in our building for prolonged periods of time. And yet we wanted to make sure that 100% of our services remained available to all of the clients that we take care of and all the community members that depend on us. So my work, and the work of, our leadership team was really to enable everyone who works here with the technology they need to keep services going. And we were very proud of the fact that we did not miss a single appointment. Our counseling team never had to cancel an appointment due to lack of being able to be physically present here or have the clients come in. They transitioned very successfully to using Zoom, a special HIPAA protected Zoom for the benefit of our clients. Our case management team did the same thing. Those that rely on us for help with food or some bills when they're going through a tough time, all of that continued without interruption. And I think the biggest challenge has just been making sure that those folks who rely on us, that there was no interruption to our service. And we're really proud of the fact that we've been able to do that.
Wow, that really is a mazel moment for JFS, for you, for Linda, and really the whole team there. That's sensational.
The other thing is just, and I know you're struggling, we all are, is how do you stay connected? And so we've worked very hard. We have our, all of our staff meetings, via Zoom, and our staff has done a great job adapting to that. And we've tried to increase the communication that goes out to the community, because I think everyone's feeling a little disjointed right now. So we had a weekly e-newsletter that went out, and now we've increased that to twice a week. Just feeling like it would be helpful for folks to have a little bit more frequent contact with us.
And as I told you separately offline or in a previous correspondence, I really like the personal touch that you've added to those emails. So it's greatly appreciated to see the personal side of the individual sending that email.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we're all learning is every mode of communication, you have to sort of learn to master it, right? And I think that we've tried very hard to help our staff and the community feel like there's a personal connection, even at a time when we can't sit in the room together. And so part of that style of communicating was really hoping that to add a little bit of warmth to a medium that might sometimes feel a little bit colder.
So kudos to you. Again, for those clients new to JFS right now during the pandemic, what are you guys seeing are some of the biggest needs? I know you brought up employment earlier, which will probably be an increasing need, but what are some of the other things that you're seeing?
Well, it's probably no surprise that folks who come to JFS or reach out to us are struggling with many of the same things that our own families are. Working at home, has its own challenges, especially at a time when the schools are closed, and unfortunately, camps have to restrict, what they can do. And so parents, I think, are really struggling to find a balance of how do I be a good parent? How do I try to provide meaningful educational, enriching activities for my kids, but also get my work done? And when do I take care of myself? When do I get that 5 minutes alone that I need to recharge? And so I think we're seeing a lot of stress related to that. And I know our counseling department has started a support group in particular for parents who are struggling with some of those things. And I just think that there's a very high level of worry and anxiety. We all are worried about our health, obviously, or the health of people that we care about. I think the economy is on people's minds and creating some worries and anxieties. And then families are also going through the stress of, grandparents and aunts and uncles and cousins, not being able to be in the same, physical proximity that we're used to. And so I think that's creating a little bit of a sense of loneliness. And so all of those themes are really coming up, with the clients that we're hearing from right now.
Yeah, that separation. I think regardless of your age and stage in life, the separation from loved ones and good friends, whether near or far, is probably one of the most challenging aspects. of this from a mental standpoint, no question.
Yeah, I think the one of the interesting kind of surprises is that the separation, I think, feels more acute for the people who live closest to us because we're used to seeing them more often. Many people say they actually feel somewhat closer to their distant relatives because they're using Zoom more than they did before. And that's feeling like an add-on. But for those who they're used to just hopping in the car and seeing in person, that Zoom doesn't feel quite as much a substitute as it might.
Oh, no question there. Continuing our conversation, for better or for worse, Houston, as you kind of mentioned earlier, we've been through floods and hurricanes. The Federation shared a few weeks ago when I had them on that there were still quite a few JFS clients who were really just starting to come out of the real significant needs they had from those previous events, and people were kind of transitioning through. But, you know, saying that, what are some of the unique challenges? I know we're all, whether you're watching this in DC or you're watching this in California, we've all been through challenges related to COVID, but I think Houston, having been through these really seismic events to some degree, what are some of the unique challenges that you're seeing from these prior events that we're now dealing with?
Well, I think a number of things. One is if you think back to, let's say, Ike or something like that, it was a pretty scary event, but it had a start and a finish. You know, when the hurricane ended, we could go out into the community and do a damage assessment and have a sense of the task ahead. And as daunting as that was for some people who were more impacted, it was easier to kind of wrap your head around the scope of the damage and put a concrete plan together. This event is really challenging us in a new way in that it's hard to know what the damage is going to be. You know, we're only starting to begin to feel some of the economic impacts. We're not sure what's going to happen with the economy or with jobs. And so I think the indefinite nature of the time period is making it harder. And so JFS is working very, very closely with the Federation and other agencies in town to try to, you know, track the needs and predict what the community is going to need and plan together so that we can do the best in responding to as many people as possible. I think the other challenge is that there are people who never expected to be in a position to need to reach out for some assistance or guidance are now, because there's been multiple events, that extra cushion that they had may have been eroded. And so they're more vulnerable. They may have used up some of those extra resources, you know, during Memorial Day and Harvey and Ike and, you know, tax day flood, and they just don't have those extra resources anymore. And so we, you know, part of our message is that we want people to feel comfortable reaching out. I think some people are maybe struggling with a sense of shame, or, you know, it doesn't feel like something that they would have expected to do. But this is not a personal, you know, this is not a lack of personal responsibility. This is a community event that happened to all of us. And I think all of us at some point are going to need something, whether it's some emotional support or financial or other. No one should feel that there's any shame in reaching out, and we want to help everyone in need.
Now, I kind of want to build off that last question. You mentioned that people are reaching out. They might not think they need to reach out, but will eventually need to reach out. What are some of the ways, if I know someone that needs to reach out, or if I need to reach out, or someone in the community needs to reach out, how can we, A, reach out, and B, communicate some of the information out about ways we can become engaged in some of these sessions that you've mentioned and other opportunities through JFS?
So one great way is to go to our website at jfshouston.org. All of our programs are described there. There are contact information for the individuals that manage those programs, you know, to contact them through email. Many of our programs, and we're adding more and more every day, have online request for service forms that you can fill out to get that request started. Our phones are still being answered every day during business hours. So people can call JFS and talk to someone or leave a message and we'll respond. You know, and if they don't know what else to do, they can always just email me and I'll get that information to the right person. But we want, you know, we want to make it as easy as possible for everyone.
Do you mind sharing the phone number to
Sure. Our main number is 713-667-9336.
Perfect. And what we'll do is I'll work with Carl after this, and we'll put some of it, for those watching on Facebook, we'll put some of these contact numbers and his email on the post, so you'll be able to connect as you need to do.
Right. I should just mention, we also, on our Facebook page, that's a place where people can reach out. And if they're needing something, they certainly don't need to share anything personal, but if they just don't know where to go, they can just post a comment saying that they want someone to reach out to them, and we can private message them and set up a time when we can talk in person.
That's just great. And then the last question I have for you, Carl, and I've seen this in your emails, is that there are ways for people to get involved. I know you mentioned earlier your celebration company, buying stuff through the online platform, but what are some of the other things that, you know, maybe if I'm going grocery shopping, curbside, of course,
Right.
what I can do to help JFS and maybe some of the branches within the JFS arc?
Sure, absolutely. So as a Jewish community, the Federation is really the one that's organizing the financial response. So if somebody wants to help out the emergency response to COVID with financial resources, I would direct them to the COVID Emergency Response Fund that our Federation partners have set up. And then we work really closely with them as the agencies to get those dollars to exactly where they need to go. But we do have a food pantry here. It's not open for people just to walk in, but our case managers use it to get things to clients who need it. And there's some information on our website. Generally, it's, you know, non-perishable items that, you know, we can share out. I think we also still have a link on Amazon where you can send us packages if you don't want to go into a store, but still want to help with some of the materials we need. And I think that information is also posted on our website. Right now, it's been a little bit harder for us to bring on board new volunteers just because some of the training we do in person is a little bit harder to do. But certainly, Melanie Cole Goldberg manages our volunteer program, and anyone interested in volunteering can certainly reach out to her. We've created new opportunities such as our COVID cards of caring. One of the communities that we're very concerned about is seniors who are living in assisted living facilities or nursing homes. You know, they're not able to get visitors now. And so one of our volunteer programs has been to write cards, you know, to brighten the day of someone who maybe can't get a visit from their family or friends. And so there are still some new volunteer opportunities that we're developing during this interesting time.
Wow. So there really is so many different ways to get involved. It's really
Absolutely.
nice that JFS is providing these entry points to get involved. And again, for those who are watching, what I will do is put in the comments or with the post some of the information that Carl's sharing, so you'll be able to get it. And again, I think it was jfshouston.org, correct? Is the website?
Yep.
Very, very good. So again, we'll share that information. We are so excited that Carl was able to join us today. Please, thank you to David Tanner. Check out the JFS website. Every Wednesday at noon, we'll have one of these conversations for the time being. We might keep going once we're whole again, but be on the lookout. We'll share the information of who our next speaker is. And if you have any suggestions, you can always email me at jasonp@emmanuelhouston.org. We have some people in the works, but we're again excited that we're able to share some of the messaging from JFS about the services they're providing, how you can get involved, how you can engage with JFS services. Anything I'm missing, Carl, before we cut off?
No, I think you got it. Thanks for all that you're doing at Emmanuel. The content you're putting out has been a real pleasure to see, and we're really excited about it as well.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Again, thanks to David Tanner behind the scenes. And we will see you next Wednesday on the Emmanuel Facebook page and our website. Hope you have a great week. And thanks again. Take care, everybody.